Steve Cassidy here. I want to talk a little bit about testing of JavaScript code, particularly front-end testing. When we developed our Python-based application, we can use Python unit testing framework to test the application, and that unit testing framework allows us to test functions that return values, but also simulate a browser making requests to the server and then check the contents of the pages. When we're using a front-end framework, that same approach doesn't quite work because most of the page construction goes on in JavaScript. So here's my implementation of the online store application, and all of the work of the construction of the page is being done in JavaScript. So the page that's returned from the Python application doesn't actually contain anything. The server just contains simple HTML and then the JavaScript, which is going to do the work. And so in order to test this, we can't rely on a test harness that is at the Python level. We've got to have a test harness that is able to work in the browser, because only when it's in the browser and the JavaScript is executing that we are able to see what actually the behavior is. So this gives us a problem of how do we actually test front-end code, or how do we test code that is really running the browser. The solution is that essentially what we do is we automate the browser. We make it so that we essentially build a remote controller for a browser to make it do things under our control, and then look for expectations. And there are a few frameworks that allow you to do this. One of the ones that's been around for quite some time is this one called Selenium. And Selenium is a browser extension that automates browsers and allows you to write tests and essentially capture your interaction with a server and replay that as part of a test and sort of say things about the expectations. Selenium's been around quite a while, and there are now some sort of interesting alternatives. One that I'm going to talk about is this thing called Cypress. So Cypress is a front-end testing framework. It's an open source framework. It's got some commercial bits attached to it that allows us to test things. So I want to go through in this very brief video what Cypress is and how it works and how we can use it to test this application. So the basic idea, maybe the easiest way to sort of illustrate it is by running some Cypress tests. So Cypress, when you run it, essentially takes over a browser. Here I've got a Chrome window. My normal default browser is Firefox at the moment, but here I've got a Chrome window that is running Cypress. And you can see that on the left-hand side here, we've got a set of tests. Now I've got one that's failed here, so we can see it. But if I run these tests, you'll see my application going through its paces. And you can see in a sort of very sped up way there, the tests being run. So the page is loading and things are being clicked on. And on the left-hand side here, you've got the results of the interactions being checked. And so it's sort of trying to interact with the page. So this is what's happening in running the tests. And one of the nice things about these tests here, so you can see here I've got a test that's failed, so I'm displaying it's displaying the names of the tests here, and I'll look at what they look like in a second. But here's one that's failed, and as I browse over the different steps that go to it, so we visit the page, the main page of the server, we check that it contains Ocean Blue Shirt, so that's where the page has been built by the JavaScript, so it's waited for something to happen. You can see that in the background here 2 requests have been made. We then click on Ocean Blue Shirt, and then we check that it contains this form, and that's where we're failing. So the form, you can see I don't have the form in the page. I disabled that just to show this test failing. And if we look at a test that succeeds here, we visit the page, we look for Ocean Blue Shirt, we click on it, and then it displays an image. We check that that image is there, and we check that it contains this close button. We click on the close button, and then we check that the image is not there, and then everything's working fine. So that's a test that passes. So we've got this framework which essentially allows us to remote control the browser. This is an application that's running, and it is controlling this instance of Chrome. So if we have a look at the tests now over in this window, we can see here that what I'm doing, and so one of the nice things about Cypress, unlike Selenium, Cypress, the tests are written in JavaScript. And so I write the tests as JavaScript, and then Cypress interprets those and executes them. And there are a few different ways of running these tests, so you can automate the process quite nicely. And so I write the tests, and it is also possible in Cypress to write unit tests, the kind of things that we had in the Python testing to evaluate, to try and execute functions and check their return values and things like that. So it's possible to write tests like that as well as write these browser automation tests. So these tests use a style that is fairly common in a few different testing frameworks, and it sort of basically starts with we're describing a set of tests. So this is the set of tests the way we can load the main page. This is all my tests I've got here, and we have all these clauses saying it, a function called it, but it sort of reads like it displays a table of products. And then I define a function which is going to actually do that, and it consists of a number of calls to this sci thing. So I say sci visit a particular URL. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Visit a particular URL. Then when we've got that, the result of that, find a table, and then in that table make sure that it contains a TD that has the text ocean blue shirt, and then look for the next element, and then make sure that contains $33. And so that is a set of assertions on the page that resulted. So the browser is being automated in doing this, and we execute that test. We're going to look at that test over here in the browser window. Then you see here we load the page, we wait till the table is there and contains, so that table is already there from my template, and then we wait until it contains the text that we want, and there is the text, and we notice in the background those two things have been requested, and then we look for the next thing that contains $33, and that's correct, so that test passes. So that's the nature of a test. If we look at another one of these tests where we want to actually click on something, so here's the second test. It says it shows product detail when I click on a product. Define the function, make the first request, check that it contains ocean blue shirt, and then click on it. So we just do a click. And then we can make assertions, so it sort of waits till that happens, and then we can make assertions that the page now contains ocean blue cotton shirt, which is the part of the description, and it contains this image, and it contains 33. Well, it could have contained that anyway, but yeah, we can make assertions about this new part of the page. So I can go through and make these assertions later on when I am interacting. So let me fix that bug that I introduced so that test would fail, and we can see it interacting with a form. Okay, so I fixed that bug now. I'll restart my server, and I should be able to replay now, and now we can see the final result here is that I've actually added two things to the shopping cart, so I'm interacting with the form. So let's have a look at this test here. It says it adds products to the cart when I submit the form. And so here we request the page, check that it contains $0, that's the total in the cart. I find the ocean blue shirt and click on it, and then I find a form, and I get the input called product ID, and it should have a value of 0. I get the input with the name quantity, and I clear that and I type 3. And then I get the form and I submit it, and then we should see that the cart is updated to 99. And if we go and find that test here, so here we're requesting the page, we check that it contains 0, and there it is at the top of the page there. It contains an ocean blue shirt, which we click on. We then locate the form. Down in the bottom right, we get the form. And we expect the input to have 0, and then we again get the form, find the quantity, clear it, type 3. Okay, and so now you can see that the form contains a 3, and then we're going to submit the form, and then we wait until the page contains 99. You can see up here the page has been updated so that we can see $99. And then we get black leather bag, click on that. We see the black leather bag here, we get the form, product ID, get the form again, get the quantity, enter 1, submit the form, and then we should see 141. So that's the test that is running to interact with this form. And so, what we've got to be able to do is find things in the page using either identifiers, IDs, or element names, or just text, and then we can interact with the forms and so on and submit them. So that's a quick view of the Cypress front-end testing tool, and you can install that at cypress.io. There are different ways to install it, but if you just click download now, that will give you a download that will run on your desktop. Let me just show you that. Okay, so here is the actual Cypress application running on my Mac, and you can see I can start and stop. I'm running in Chrome. You can actually select which browser it uses, but really Chrome is the main one that it uses. It has a built-in one called Electron, which didn't work when I tried it, but if you've got Chrome installed, it will start Chrome for you and sort of take over control of that instance of Chrome. And it will find when you find your project, it will find your assignment spec.js and your integration tests, and then it will allow you to run them. So that's a quick overview of Cypress.io and the use of front-end testing, end-to-end testing in front-end web applications. Thanks.